He left. The door clicked shut, the sound echoing in the apartment I paid for. I was still holding the invitation. That thick, classy envelope. That was the part that stuck. His smirk as he said it. He didn't just leave me. He was inviting me to watch his upgrade. Like I was some old piece of furniture he was generously allowing to see the new decor. He sees me as a simple, quiet girl he's outgrown. He thinks I'm just Ilara. But no, I am not just Ilara. I have been the anonymous, high-priced E. Howard, the billion-dollar ghost who has single-handedly built the strategies for Miller Corporation. Liam? Liam was just the man who presented my work. He was the parrot, and I was the one writing the words. And he just invited me to his engagement party to the house built on my work. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't angry. I looked down at the invitation, at the looping, expensive script of my name. A cold, clear focus settled over me. He thought inviting me was classy. He's a fool. Who does that? He was about to find out what professional looked like. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a declaration of war. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sound of him walking into our bedroom and zipping a suitcase. I followed him, my legs feeling like jelly. Liam, how? I whispered. How could you do this? We were planning our wedding. We were looking at houses last month. He stopped packing and looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months. His eyes were cold. Ilara, just look at us, he said, gesturing with disgust at my simple work-from-home outfit, a comfortable sweater and leggings. I'm a senior director at Miller Corp now. My life is bigger. Elodie understands my world. She understands power. He turned back to his suitcase. You're just not on my level anymore. You're dead weight. My name is Ilara Howard. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been a freelance strategist. And the man I loved, the man I had built up from nothing, had just called me dead weight. He zipped his bag, walked past me without another word, and closed the front door behind him. The click of the lock echoed in the empty apartment. The silence was absolute. I stood frozen in the hallway for 10, maybe 20 minutes. The shock was a heavy blanket, making it hard to breathe. But as the minutes ticked by, the shock didn't turn into tears. It turned into ice. It sharpened into a cold, clear focus. He called me dead weight. I walked to my home office and sat down. My hands were perfectly steady as I opened my laptop. Liam wasn't a senior director. He was a parrot. He was a fraud. For 5 years, I had been the ghost in his machine. I was E. Howard, a high-priced, anonymous consultant for his firm, Miller Corporation. My consulting agency kept my identity secret, just as I'd requested. I wrote every single report that got him noticed. I designed every strategy he presented as his own. I ran every analysis that won him his promotions. He thought I was just a simple data entry clerk, working a low-stress remote job. He had no idea that I was the brilliant Mr. Howard he often complained about, the one his boss, Mr. Miller, was supposedly obsessed with. He had no idea that the dead weight was the one carrying him. Something cold pricked at the back of my mind. The rent. The rent for this apartment was due tomorrow, and I always paid it from our joint account. I opened my banking app, a sick feeling growing in my stomach. The joint account balance, $12.50. He had emptied it. Every penny. I felt a wave of dizziness. But then I remembered. My last invoice. I quickly logged into my private business account, the one he knew nothing about. There it was, a payment from Miller Corp, deposited 3 days ago. It was a huge sum for the massive Tokyo project he had just presented to the board. I clicked back to the joint account. I scrolled through the transaction history, and that's when I saw it. He hadn't just emptied the account. He had been checking it, waiting. The moment my bi-weekly transfer from my business account landed in the joint account, my share of our shared bills, he had transferred everything out. He hadn't just stolen our shared savings. He had purposefully waited to steal my personal money, too. He left me with $12.50 to cover the rent he was abandoning. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a robbery. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was a number I didn't recognize. I opened the message, my blood running colder with every word. Hi, Elodie here. Liam's fiancé. She had to add that last part, of course. Liam told me how emotional you can be. I just wanted to personally reach out and let you know that we are truly happy. He's so relieved to finally be free and start a real life. My hands gripped the phone. He was worried you might do something, so I'm just asking you, please don't make a scene at the party on Saturday. It would be really embarrassing for you, and I don't want our special night to be ruined by any drama. I read the text twice. Emotional. Embarrassing for me. They had planned this. They had discussed me. They had laughed about me. They saw me as a pathetic, hysterical ex who might cry and beg. The assumption that I was the fragile one, that I was the one who would fall apart, was almost funny. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot, saved it to a new folder on my computer, and added it to my collection. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. The path forward was now crystal clear. I opened my contacts and found the one person who knew my secret. His name was Tony. He was my handler at the consulting firm, the agency that set up my anonymous contracts and took a small percentage for keeping me a ghost. He was the only one who knew that the legendary E. Howard was just Ilara Howard, working from her quiet apartment. He picked up on the second ring. E. Just the genius I wanted to talk to. Miller Corp loved the Tokyo project. They're already talking about a massive bonus. Tony, I need a favor, I said, my voice steady. I need a complete file. Every project, every email, every invoice, and every original metadata stamp file I have ever done for Miller Corporation. I need it all on a drive, and I need it by tomorrow. There was a pause. Ilara, that's 5 years of work. Is everything okay? Everything is fine, I said. One more question. You've mentioned before that the client was happy. Has Mr. Miller ever tried to find E. Howard? Tony let out a short, sharp laugh. Has he tried to find you? Ilara, tried isn't the word. Mr. Miller has been on a warpath for the last 3 years trying to unmask you. My bosses are constantly fielding his calls. I leaned forward, my heart hammering against my ribs. What do you mean? He calls you his billion-dollar ghost, Tony said, his voice laced with amusement. He thinks E. Howard is the key to his company's future. He's offered my firm a ridiculous finder's fee to get you to sign an exclusive contract. He complains that he's building his entire legacy on the work of a phantom. He says he wants E. Howard to run his entire new global strategy division with a blank check salary. I was silent, absorbing this. A billion-dollar ghost. All this time, while Liam was patting me on the head and calling my work cute, the CEO of his company was desperately trying to find me. Why, Ilara? Tony asked again, his voice suddenly serious. You're not quitting, are you? You're the best we've got. I stared at the thick, cream-colored invitation sitting on my desk. Liam's smirking face flashed in my mind. Elodie's condescending text. Dead weight. Emotional. No, Tony, I said, a cold, sharp focus settling over me like a suit of armor. I'm not quitting. Good, he said, relieved. You had me worried. So, what's this file for? A new portfolio. I thought about the party. I thought about Mr. Miller. I thought about Liam walking into that party as a senior director with his boss's daughter on his arm, built on a foundation of my work, my mind, and my sacrifices. He wanted to introduce me to his new world. He had no idea I was the one who built it. Something like that, I said. Tell Mr. Miller. I'm considering his offer for the global strategy position. What? Tony yelped. Are you serious? Ilara, that's huge. I'll set up a meeting. When? No, I said, standing up. Don't set up anything. Just let him know I'm considering it. And I'll be in touch with him soon. In person. It didn't take long for Liam to start his cover-up. By the next afternoon, the text started rolling in. First from Anna, a mutual friend. Hey, just checking on you. Liam said you're not doing so well. Call me if you need to talk. An hour later, one from his old college roommate. Ilara, Liam told us what happened. I'm really sorry, but he said you threatened him. That's not cool. You need to just let him go. Threaten him? I almost laughed. He was painting me as the crazy ex before I had even spoken a word to anyone. He was poisoning the well, making sure everyone saw me as unhinged and unstable. It was a smart, cruel move. He was controlling the narrative, making himself the victim who had escaped a difficult relationship. This solidified my plan. Any small, lingering part of me that felt guilty about what I was about to do vanished. This wasn't just about his betrayal of our relationship anymore. This was about my name. He was trying to ruin my reputation to protect his lies. He wasn't just getting justice for my heart. He was getting it for my career. As if he could read my mind, my phone buzzed again. It was Liam. My fingers hovered over the block button, but curiosity made me open it. Hey, the text began, dripping with fake pity. I know you're probably hurting a lot right now. I just wanted to say, I think it would be good for you to come to the party. And listen, I know money is tight for you, but maybe use the registry link on the invite. Buying us a gift might give you some closure. I read the message twice. Closure. He wanted me to buy him and his new fiancé a gift with the money he stole from me. But he wasn't done. A new text popped up. And please, Ilara, don't wear that sad gray sweater you always have on. It's a high-end event at the Miller estate. Try to look nice for a change. It would just be sad to see you like that. My sad gray sweater. He'd always hated it, calling it my uniform. I looked at the invitation. Next Saturday, I knew exactly what I was going to wear. His text was meant to hurt me, to make me feel small and poor. He wanted me to see myself as a sad woman in a sad gray sweater. He had no idea what I was truly capable of. I went to my closet, ignoring the everyday clothes I lived in. I reached to the very back and pulled down a large, flat box that had been sealed for almost 2 years. Inside, protected by tissue paper, was the outfit. It was a custom-tailored dark blue suit. The fabric was expensive, the cut was sharp and powerful. It was the furthest thing from a sad sweater. I had bought it for the one and only executive awards dinner I ever attended. I went as Liam's +1, and I watched him walk on stage to accept the Innovator of the Year award for a project I had designed and executed from start to finish. He had told me to dress simple that night. I bought this suit instead and never wore it again. I took it out and hung it on the door. It wasn't a dress. It wasn't a sad sweater. It was armor. And I was finally ready to go to war. The day of the party arrived. I didn't spend the day crying or eating ice cream. I didn't text old friends for support. I spent the day methodically, calmly, and quietly preparing. I sat at my desk, fueled by black coffee and a cold, clear sense of purpose. I took the terabyte drive Tony had overnight to me and began to build my case. I compiled 5 years of work into a single, password-protected file on my tablet. I didn't just include the final reports. I included the original drafts, the metadata stamp files proving I was the original author. I included the hundreds of emails from Liam. Emails like, Ilara, I need this by 5 p.m. Make it sound smart. Emails like, my boss is asking for this analysis. Can you do your magic on it? I included every invoice, every payment, every timestamp. By 6 p.m., it was all there. A perfect, undeniable record of his entire career. I wasn't going to this party as Liam's emotional, heartbroken ex-girlfriend. I was going as a creditor, and he was about to find out his entire account was past due. The Miller estate was on an island, accessible only by a private ferry. The place was ridiculous, lit up like a palace, with music drifting over the water. I had never seen such a display of wealth. I walked in, and the party was even more ostentatious inside. A tower of champagne glasses, a full orchestra. I saw them across the lawn. Liam was preening in a brand new, flashy suit, his arm tight around Elodie's waist. She was wearing a sparkling dress, laughing too loudly at something he said. They looked like a king and queen holding court. Then Liam spotted me. His face didn't fall. He didn't look guilty. He smirked. He leaned over and whispered something in Elodie's ear. She looked over at me, and her eyes, just like his, were filled with amusement. She rolled her eyes as if the party's entertainment had just arrived. They thought I was a joke. They thought I had come to cry. I stood still, held my head high, and let them watch me. I wanted them to be watching when it all came crashing down. After a few minutes, Liam, flushed with champagne and arrogance, left Elodie's side and walked straight toward me. He didn't look nervous. He looked like a hunter approaching a trapped animal. Ilara, I'm so glad you could make it, he said, his voice loud enough for people nearby to hear. He grabbed my elbow, his grip surprisingly tight. Come on. I want you to meet my future father-in-law. It's time you saw what real success looks like. You should see the house. Well, you've never seen anything like it. He was physically steering me, pulling me across the lawn like a prize he'd won. He was using me to show off. He wanted to parade his sad ex in front of his new, powerful boss. He wanted to show everyone how far he had come and how far I had been left behind. He was so drunk on his own ego that he couldn't see the cliff he was walking me toward. Or, more accurately, the one he was walking toward himself. We stopped in front of a small, stressed-looking group of men. In the center was a man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a perfectly tailored suit. He looked tired and annoyed, like he was trapped in his own party. Mr. Miller, Liam beamed, his voice booming with fake confidence. I wanted to introduce you to someone. Mr. Miller turned, his eyes impatient. This is Ilara, Liam said, practically pushing me forward. My ex, the one I told you about. Elodie, who had followed us, stepped up and slid her hand into Liam's. Daddy, this is his ex. She's a friend from our old life. Her tone was dismissive, like she was introducing the hired help. Mr. Miller gave me a polite, distracted nod. He was already turning away, clearly stressed and looking to escape the conversation. A pleasure, he mumbled, not even looking at me. He was about to walk away, but I didn't let him. I had come too far. I didn't even look at Liam or Elodie. I ignored her petty comment and his tight grip on my arm. I stepped forward, pulling my elbow free, and extended my hand directly to the man who owned everything. Mr. Miller, I said, my voice calm and clear. It cut through his conversation. It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Mr. Miller, who was already turning away, stopped cold. He looked back, first at my outstretched hand, and then at my face. There was a flicker of confusion in his sharp eyes. He hadn't really looked at me before. Now he was. I'm sorry, he said, his voice hesitant. Have we? We've spoken on the phone, I said, keeping my hand steady until he took it. His handshake was firm, but his gaze was searching. A few times, actually, about the Tokyo project and the new R&D analysis. A small spark lit in his eyes. He knew those projects. But we worked together for 5 years, I continued, letting a small, professional smile touch my lips. My full name is Ilara Howard. Mr. Miller's eyes went wide. His hand was still holding mine, but his grip had gone slack. I saw his mind working, connecting the dots. He stared at my face as if he was seeing a ghost. Howard, he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. He let go of my hand. The entire party, the music, the laughter, it all seemed to fade away. There was a sudden, sharp silence in our small circle. He paled. I could see the exact moment the billion-dollar question he'd been asking for 3 years finally got an answer. Howard, he whispered, his voice full of disbelief. Liam, who had been watching this with a confused frown, finally let out a loud, braying laugh. He stepped forward, putting his arm possessively around Elodie, who was looking back and forth between me and her father, completely lost. What? No, Liam laughed, shaking his head. Sir, you're mistaken. Howard is some guy, some consulting genius my team works with. He waved a dismissive hand at me. Ilara's just Ilara. Mr. Miller didn't even look at Liam. His eyes were locked on me, sharp and intense. Is she? Mr. Miller said, his voice dangerously low. He was no longer the stress party host. He was the CEO. He was testing me. The Tokyo project. The R&D analysis for the European merger. The buyout projection for the tech acquisition. I met his gaze without flinching. All me, I said. I wrote the projection report on my laptop 2 months ago, and I ran the final R&D numbers from my home office just last week. Liam's laughter died in his throat. His face, which had been flushed with champagne, was suddenly pale. Ilara, what are you doing? He hissed, his grip tightening on Elodie's arm. Stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. She's lying. Elodie suddenly shrieked, sensing the shift in the air. Liam, she's lying. Daddy, she's just a jealous ex. She's crazy. Liam told me she was. Yes. Liam agreed, nodding frantically. She's obsessed with me. I had to leave her. She's obviously not well. Elodie stepped in front of Liam, trying to shield him. Daddy, she's a liar. She's just trying to ruin our party because she's jealous. Look at her. She's pathetic. I didn't look at Elodie. I didn't look at Liam. I kept my eyes focused on the only person in the world who mattered in that moment. I spoke directly to Mr. Miller. The man you think is a senior director is a fraud, I said, my voice echoing in the sudden quiet. He's been taking credit for my work since 2020. Every promotion, every bonus, every word of praise you've given him, it was all built on my work. He's a liar, and he's a thief. Liam's panic finally exploded. She's insane, he yelled, his voice cracking. She's completely insane. Security. Get her out of here. Someone call security. He was looking around wildly, but no security guards moved. They, along with every guest at the party, were frozen, watching Mr. Miller, who hadn't moved a muscle. He was just watching me. Am I? I asked, finally breaking my gaze from Mr. Miller to look at Liam. His eyes were wide with terror. I held up the sleek tablet I had been carrying. You thought I'd come here to cry, Liam? I came here to get paid. I turned the screen to Mr. Miller. Here, I said, tapping the screen, is the original file for the Tokyo deal with server metadata from 2021, proving I'm the author. Here, I tapped again, is the email from Liam with his personal address, begging me to fix it and make it sound smart after he almost tanked the preliminary meeting. I swiped one last time, my hand perfectly steady. And here is the invoice I sent to your accounting department from E. Howard and the bank statement showing the payment from Miller Corporation. The payment you authorized for the project he claimed was his. Mr. Miller's eyes scanned the screen. He was a fast reader. I watched his face turn from pale white to a deep, dark red. He didn't just look angry, he looked betrayed. He had built his trust in this man, and I had just shown him it was all a lie. Liam was stammering, that's fake. She faked that. She's a tech person, she can do that. But Mr. Miller wasn't listening. He was looking at the dates. He was looking at the email addresses. He knew they were real. Mr. Miller looked up from the tablet. He looked at Liam, who had gone completely quiet. The blood had drained from Liam's face. He was staring at the tablet like it was a bomb. Elodie, finally realizing her father believed me, let out a high-pitched scream. Daddy, do something. She's ruining everything. Make her leave. Tell them she's a crazy liar. The orchestra had stopped playing. Every guest at the party was watching us, their champagne glasses frozen halfway to their lips. Mr. Miller raised one hand, not high, but just enough. The entire party went silent. He didn't look at his daughter. He didn't look at me. He looked only at Liam. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the lawn, colder than the night air. You, he said, his voice shaking with a quiet, controlled rage. You have been lying to me. It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. He looked back at my tablet. This whole time, all those reports, my company's biggest wins, all that strategy. He looked back at Liam. For 5 years, Liam opened his mouth, but only a small gasp came out. He was finished, and he knew it. Liam, finally finding his voice, lunged forward, but not at me. He grabbed Mr. Miller's arm, his eyes wild with panic. But, sir, please, I love your daughter. I love Elodie. This is about us, he stammered, his confident mask completely gone. Mr. Miller looked at Liam's hand on his suit sleeve with pure disgust. He shook it off like he'd been touched by something rotten. You don't love my daughter, he hissed, his voice like gravel. You love my company. You love my name. You love what you could steal. He leaned in closer. And you're not just fired, Liam. You're finished. He didn't shout. He didn't have to. The words landed like stones. I will personally make sure you never work in this industry again. I will call every board I sit on. You will be blacklisted by morning. He nodded to 2 stern-looking men in black suits who had been standing by the entrance. Get him out. Now. Elodie just stood there, watching, her hands over her mouth, as Liam started to protest. No. Please, Elodie. The security guards grabbed him by both arms and began to drag him, stumbling, across the perfect lawn and toward the exit. As Liam's yells faded into the distance, Elodie finally unfroze. All her fake amusement was gone, replaced by a pure, childish rage. She turned on her father. "Daddy, you can't," she shrieked, stomping her high-heeled foot on the grass. "This is my wedding. You're ruining my life. He loves me." Mr. Miller looked at his daughter, and for the first time, I saw no fatherly love in his eyes. He just looked tired. "This wedding," he said, his voice flat and final, "is over." "No, I won't let you," she cried. "It's just some work stuff. It has nothing to do with us." "It has everything to do with us," Mr. Miller shot back. "I'm not letting my company or my daughter be tied to a fraud. I'm not letting a con artist into my family." He looked her up and down. "You've been lapping up his lies for a year. You've been feeding him information. You've been just as fooled as I was, and you should have known better. You're a terrible judge of character, Elodie." He shook his head, looking disgusted. He then did the most shocking thing of all. He turned his back on both of us and started to walk away, leaving his daughter standing alone in her engagement dress. Mr. Miller took about 5 steps toward the house. Then he stopped. The entire party was holding its breath. I stood there, holding my tablet, unsure what to do next. My part was done. He had turned his back on his daughter, but then he turned back around. He didn't look at Elodie, who was now sobbing into her hands. He looked straight at me. The anger was gone from his face. It was replaced by that sharp, intense focus I had seen earlier. He saw me now, not as Liam's ex, but as E. Howard. "Ms. Howard," he said, his voice now full of respect. It echoed across the silent lawn. "My apologies. I've been trying to find you for 3 years." I just nodded, my heart pounding. He walked back toward me, stopping a few feet away. "You're a brilliant strategist. The most brilliant I've ever seen. But you're a terrible negotiator. You've been working for pennies." "I valued my anonymity," I said quietly. "I can see that," he said. "Well, that's over." He gestured toward the house, away from the crying Elodie. "Walk with me. I want to talk about your new office. I'm thinking senior vice president, and I want to hear everything." 6 months later, I walked through the massive marble lobby of the Miller Corp headquarters. My heels clicked confidently on the floor. I wasn't a ghost here. I was the senior vice president of global strategy. My new office was on the top floor, right next to Mr. Miller's. He called me his secret weapon, but this time, everyone knew my name. I had just closed the billion-dollar deal in Europe that he had been worried about for years, the one he'd always said only Howard could pull off. As I headed for the glass doors, I saw a commotion by the security desk. A man in a rumpled, ill-fitting suit was arguing with the delivery driver, his voice high and desperate. "I'm telling you, I work for this courier service. It's my route." He dropped a package, and as he bent to pick it up, he looked up. It was Liam. He froze. His face was thin, pale, and covered in a patchy beard. He stared at me, at my sharp suit, at the briefcase in my hand, at the world I now owned. I didn't smile. I didn't scowl. I just looked at him, gave a slight, polite nod, and kept walking out into the bright afternoon sun.